Hello.
Welcome to Engaged and Divorced, the podcast.
Where I wear the rings.
And I'm trying to figure out these damn things.
Classic.
Yeah.
Welcome to part 2 of our faith deconstruction video and podcast.
So episode 1, if you missed it, is going to be over on our YouTube channel, which is... Was that a scam?
Someone called me a
Scammer was calling Kylie.
It's fun.
Our episode 2 is going to be over on our Engaged and Divorced podcast YouTube channel. Link is down below in the description box or the show notes. But part 2, the one that you're listening to today or watching today, is going to be on my main channel, Shaylee. It's weird saying my name. Shaylee. Shaylee.
Yeah.
I always love when people say Shaylee. Hey,
Who
Shaylee.
Do people do
Grandma
that?
Mosier says it sometimes.
Shaylee.
Like, hello, Shaylee. Shaylee.
Well, they also say ice cream.
That's true. Ice cream.
Our mom says ice cream. You want some ice cream?
Pitbull.
Yeah, they put an emphasis on the wrong word. Pitbull.
Yeah, welcome to our podcast. If this is the first episode you've ever listened to, if you missed last week's episode, we shared our story.
Mm-hmm.
We are sisters, if you can't tell and you didn't know, and grew up together, obviously, but I got married super young at 19. Kylie was only 12 when I got married and left, so there were a lot of years that we didn't really spend together growing up. So Kylie's experience is very unique and different from mine. Also, I was in worship ministry for 10 years, so there's a little bit of a difference there. So in the last episode, we pretty much talked about all of our similarities and differences with our own deconstruction video or journey, because we've both been deconstructing in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
So go and watch or listen to that if you have not yet. But you guys sent in so many questions. Literally had 92 questions or something.
Wow.
Yeah. I've never received that many questions for one topic. So clearly this is something that you've all wanted me to talk on for a while. And I've been hesitant. I've been a little bit nervous. But at this point now, it's been about 3.5 years since I started my journey. And I feel like I'm finally at a place where I'm open and willing to share more, in hopes that you don't send me a DM. That's mean.
If you do, I'm coming for you.
If you do, I'm probably going to block you. Because I do. I mean, when people send me mean DMs, I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah, just bye.
I don't even have the energy for it anymore, guys.
Just go. Mm-hmm.
No. Now, we can agree to disagree and do so lovingly. We have no problem with that. Kylie and I disagree with, what'd you say, 90% of our family members? With
I
a lot
thought you were
of
going to
things?
say with each other, and I was like, I can't think of anything we disagree on. Yes, probably 90%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we love them. They love us.
Of course.
And we get along.
Yeah, you have to separate that with, your differences, separate those with the love that you have for the person. You can do it. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds crazy. I know. It's a concept. You can do it.
You mean we can have differences of opinions and still be friends?
Yeah.
And love each other?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Wild.
Yeah.
Insane. So that's also our hope with you watching this video. We don't care what you believe in. We don't care what your background is.
Mm-mm.
You're welcome here. This is a safe space. My channel doesn't really shame people, the comments and the people here. You guys are awesome in that way. So I already know the comments will be just fine, but feel free to share your story as this video goes on, or certain things that you relate to in this video, or different things that touch you. I would love to know, and I would love to read your comments. In addition, if you're not subscribed to our podcast yet, please go do so. And also let us know what kind of topics you want us to talk about in the future episodes, because this is real time. When you guys see this video, we just recorded 4 days before. So anything that you request us to do right now may make next week's episode.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Because
we don't know
we'll give you a little
yet.
shout out too if you make it.
Mm-hmm. How exciting. You know what I just realized though? Because obviously we filmed the video for YouTube, but you can actually watch the video on Spotify as well. Isn't that crazy?
Correct. You can. Yes.
I didn't know that till like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
It's pretty cool. It's a new feature.
Yeah. So if you prefer Spotify, you can also see our faces on your little phone as well.
Yes. Okay.
Time to dive into those questions.
I don't have this in any order, so I apologize in advance if it's like all over the place. The first question is, how does this impact your parenting? How does deconstruction impact your parenting? And then the second question was, what was your eye-opening experience that led you on this path? I think I kind of touched on the second question in the first episode, so go watch that. How does this impact my parenting? I got a lot of questions like this. How does this work for you and your ex? Because my ex is still a pastor and in ministry and probably will be for the rest of his life. It's his passion. And so my kids actually go to church with him every Sunday. And people have asked me how I feel about that. So to be honest, I don't have any issue with it at all. I really like that they have some kind of Christian background. Like, because I think at the base of Christianity, especially as a kid, when you have like that childlike faith, is all the good things that I think Christianity has to offer, like compassion, humility, love, loving one another. I think that when I think of like me being a small kid in church, it taught me a lot. And I'm grateful for that. It's the other like political, religious BS that is where it gets complicated, I think. But I think having like a wide understanding of not only Christianity, but other cultures is really key. And for both of my children, I've made it a point to introduce new ideas that I was never taught at their age, or new cultures. Eden loves to read books about girls her age in different countries with different cultures, with different religious backgrounds. She loves that kind of stuff. And then she asks a lot of questions, and it gives me the opportunity to tell her, not everybody believes in Jesus. Not everybody believes in God. And that's okay, because we're just called to love people and treat everybody equally. And I guess it's the same with like issues that are going on in the world. And when I say issues, it's not necessarily an issue for me, but I guess hot topics of conversation. So maybe some things that I grew up believing were wrong or sinful, I don't carry that same belief anymore. One specifically that I can think of is being an ally for the LGBTQ plus community. That was something that I never had tolerance for, or even like an understanding of. And with time, I've come to a place where I don't believe that it is wrong. And I know for a lot of people, it's like, oh, shock. But not for me, because love is love. So that's my viewpoint on it. But I had to sit down with my kids because, they're asking questions. It's not like they're not going to find out these things on their own. And they were asking me like what it means and just different concepts of it. And I just sat down with them and I was like, listen, guys, not everyone's going to believe the same thing I believe. And that's okay. And you guys can believe whatever you want to believe. So don't just listen to my opinion or my viewpoint on it and believe everything that I say either. So it's kind of having that balance of like being as well-rounded as they can be. I just want them to be open-minded, kind people who have empathy for others and love others well. So I do feel like they have a good balance of both, with having us both co-parenting.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that in them because like as a teacher, like knowing other kids who just like listen to what their parents say and like try to force their beliefs on other people. I've never seen that with your kids. Like they're both very like understanding and compassionate and so open-minded. I love it. They're such good kiddos because you're doing a beautiful job.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
Sometimes I feel like I don't even have to parent them, especially with Eden, my daughter, my oldest. She's just so like wise.
Yeah, she is.
like when I was having this conversation with her, I was explaining to her how, you know, some people believe that when you are gay, you're going to hell. And she was immediately like, why would people believe that they're going to hell when Jesus loves all of his children, no matter who they love? I was just like, great question, Eden.
Yeah.
Most adults don't even ask that question to themselves. They don't even allow themselves the curiosity to ask that kind of a question. So
yeah, people let politics get in the way, and there needs to be a separation, you know? It's just, yeah. And plus, I feel like being gay is known to be a bigger sin than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
But then they say, like, every sin is equal. I'm like, really? Because you seem to care about this one a little bit more than others.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's anything that is deemed sexual immorality.
Yeah.
Are the biggest deals.
Right.
Within the Christian or the evangelical American church, at least. I feel like there's such an obsession with sex.
Yeah.
With everything. And it's like they think the world's obsessed with sex.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not
That's
really,
what I was
though.
gonna say. Yeah. And they think, like, having sex before marriage is worse than, like, being in an abusive relationship. And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Just
exactly.
So confused by that.
Well, let's take that a few steps further.
Yeah.
They think having sex before marriage is a sin, but when you're in a marriage that's sexually coercive and you're being forced to have sex, they don't see a problem with that, because if the husband's asking for sex, you should give it to him no matter what, because if not, he'll go find it elsewhere. Real messages given to me, guys. Yeah. Real messages I believed personally.
Yep.
So harmful. So dangerous. We definitely focus on the wrong things. But I hate that argument about, like, I've heard this many times where it's like, oh, so we're just going to accept, you know, homosexuality as a sin now. I guess we should just line them up with the murderers and thieves and everybody else that sins. And
it's very different.
Since all sins are created equal. And I grew up thinking that all sins were created equal. And now I'm like, that's definitely one thing where I'm like, well, like I said, I don't consider being gay a sin, but that's a separate conversation. But, like, how can all sins be created equal when some sins are, like, actually, like, torturing and murdering people, while other sins are like, I stole a candy bar because I was hungry, or not even a candy bar. What if, like, a homeless person goes in and steals a sandwich from the gas station? You're telling me that's the same sin as someone going up to somebody and torturing them?
Right. Or like a mass shooting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It
doesn't make any sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
This is like my life. Like, every day I'm like, wait a minute.
Yep.
What does that mean? Like, the whole, another thing I could think of off the top of my head. I know we're getting off subject, but the, you know, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Or, like, why is there, you know, rape or all of these really terrible things going on in the world if God is really God? And the response is always, well, he gives us free will.
People are sinful. Yeah.
But it's like, is that really the only thing we can come up with, though? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Or does this not making any sense? I'm still processing things.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it is one of those, like, common questions that I feel like a lot of people ask.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to, like, wrap your mind around that, you know?
Right.
But I don't know.
We could get deep into
the
theological discussion on it, but I prefer not to.
There's a lot that goes into this.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is there's just so many things that I, like, believed to be true without even questioning it. Like, if somebody were to ask me that, I would immediately be like, it's free will, without even, like, really thinking about it, just because I was told to say that. And now it's like, you know what? Good question. I don't know why those things happen. And none of us do. Literally none of us know why those things happen.
Yeah.
And instead of just, like, writing it off as like, oh, that's the answer, we got to meet people in their brokenness and hurt. Because I think so often that makes us uncomfortable, or it's like, well, but let's focus on, like, the healing that's in play. Let's focus on what God can restore. And it's like, sometimes you just got to, like, get down on people's level. So empathy.
It's definitely an excuse answer.
Yes.
It's like, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Somebody asked if I have an OnlyFans, completely unrelated, but no, I don't. I was telling Kylie, sometimes I wish I did.
They make bank.
Those ladies be making bank.
They do.
I'm over here on the struggle bus. All right. Next question was, where did you start? I feel so lost in trying to break it all down and the guilt and shame. So many of you said you had guilt, shame, confusion, sadness. You felt overwhelmed. You felt depressed. I just want to affirm you in that and say like that is 100% normal to feel all of those emotions. And it's totally okay to feel that way. Like I kind of said on the last episode, being curious is not a negative thing. Being curious, we should all be curious. We should all walk around and ask questions and really think about what we believe and why, and not just think the way we think because we think we have to. So I think shame and guilt comes from the pressure we put on ourselves to act a certain way or think a certain way. Don't do that to yourself. Allow yourself to freely think. I know that's really, really hard if you've been a Christian for a long period of time. Like that's super tough to do that. But I think that's where the freedom starts to come when you allow yourself to think for yourself. Do you have anything to add with that?
Pretty much touched on what I was going to say. But yeah, I mean, just break it into small steps. It's not like it's like something that's going to happen overnight. Like we mentioned in the first episode, it takes a while and it's an ongoing process. So if the first step just means stop going to church, then do that. You know, if it's something small like that, or kind of finding a new community to join, you know, just find the small steps that it's going to take and what you feel like is best for you right now, because it's not going to happen quickly and that's totally okay.
Great answer.
Thank you.
If any of your friends have felt uneasy around you and your journey, how do you cope with that? That's a really good question. I feel like because I left church and then most of my friends who I had weren't even through that specific church, I didn't really have to deal with that specifically, if that makes sense. I feel like if you're really immersed in a church family and then you leave, everyone at the church is going to be like, yo, what's going on? Come back, sinner.
Mm-hmm.
Come back. We're praying for your salvation.
Yeah.
Come back. And that's when it gets tricky. I didn't really have to deal with that. Do you have any friends that you feel like have opposed you, Kylie?
I've had comments just like saying that they don't understand it, but once I've kind of talked about it more, then it makes more sense. And I can tell they're like, you know, worried or concerned for me, but that's just because they don't fully get what I'm doing. But it has allowed me to open up to new conversations for my Christian friends that maybe they haven't really considered. And I think I'm more scared of the judgment than what actually will be given to me because I've chosen my friends very wisely.
Yeah.
And it isn't like a large group that I have to be like, bye, because I've kind of cut those people out as I've gone through my journey. But I have had like a couple friends who've kind of just like made it seem like they only wanted to be friends with me because I was a Christian, you know, and not being on this process now, they're kind of just like, I don't know. So yeah. I have felt it a little bit, but for the most part, like my really close friends, never. They have been very understanding. They just want to know more about it. So
yeah. And I think if you have any friends that are mean or rude to you about it, cut them out. I would say the same thing about family. Family is a little bit trickier. It's a little bit harder, right? It's harder to do so, but establishing those boundaries to be like, listen, I actually don't really want to have this conversation. I've had to do that in my own life. Just be like, I don't want to have this conversation right now. Like I'm still working through what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And I'm not at a place right now where I can have this. And if they are people who respect boundaries, they will respect that. But there's no reason to remain in relationships with people who are going to make you feel less than because of that. Any friend who really truly loves you and supports you is going to listen to you and walk through it with you, even as you walk through kind of blindly and you don't really know where it's going to end up. Like a true friend isn't going to just be your friend because you're a Christian.
Yeah, that's not a true friend at all.
No, not at all. I've also definitely had like underhanded comments given to me, whether it's from like a subscriber or somebody I know in real life or something. And it's just like, that's not, That's not gonna like help anything, right? But sitting down and having a discussion and like understanding each other's point of view is going to solve some things. It's gonna at least help you at least get an idea of how the other person feels, and I think that's really important on both sides. Also, I feel like we have Christian pastors and leaders to thank for demonizing deconstruction, because right now it's like this thing where tons of like really well-known pastors are like talking down on the deconstructive community as if they understand it at all. They just see a group of people questioning what they believe about the Bible, about heaven and hell, about all of these foundational things that we have all believed about Christianity. And they're like, oh my gosh, they're like a threat to our Christian community, because they're asking questions. Because once again, curiosity, asking questions, not always allowed. And so because of that, they've really like done these sermons, and I've seen them come on social media and like YouTube and make these videos about how toxic and dangerous deconstructing is, because it's bringing people to atheism and it's bringing people away from God. And like, while sometimes people's deconstruction may lead to atheism, it doesn't always. So like just making a blanket statement like that is so harmful. And then it encourages other practicing Christians to like attack those of us who are deconstructing. And it's like, okay, now we're deconstructing our faith, and then we have all these Christians attacking us. And it's like, well, I guess I made the right decision then. You know, it's like we're the odd ones out, as if we're just like the lepers of the group. Like nobody can come over and like, and it's like, listen, sorry, I'll let you talk in just a minute. It's like, they say that our faith is lukewarm. They say if we had believed better, if we had had enough faith, then we wouldn't be deconstructing, and we're lukewarm right now. But it's like, no, you guys aren't facing the reality of what's going on. Have you noticed that many, many young people are leaving the church? A lot. Statistically proven, it's a mass amount of people not coming back to church after high school, because they have like middle school youth groups and high school youth groups. But after high school, there's usually like a young adult group. But they're noticing now that most of these young people are not coming to church past high school because their parents are no longer forcing them to go to church.
And the older people are like basically kicking out the younger ones.
Yeah. And it's like, you have to understand why people are leaving the church. Instead of like jumping to conclusions and assuming that we have little faith, why are they not asking the question, why are people leaving? And how can we be the bridge that repairs this?
Mm-hmm. Because they're so perfect, they can't really fix anything because they're doing what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
But everyone else, it's just like, oh. And my life motto is like, worry about yourself.
I know.
Like,
I don't
why
understand.
are you so concerned about anyone else's life? Like, that's one thing as like a Christian that I never understood. Why do we care so much about what other people are doing when you can focus on your own decisions? Mm-hmm. Like, that's never made any sense to me. Why are we judging people for like living the life that they want to live?
Take the old plank out of your eye.
Yeah.
We're so focused on everybody else.
Rattles
Let's
me
be
up.
focused on ourselves. How can we improve?
Yeah.
How can we be better? Let's not focus on everybody else. You know, it's not your mission or your job, if you're a Christian watching this, to change people. And I know you're going to probably back this up with scripture and be like, we are to judge.
We're doing it out of love.
But I'm telling you right now, judgment gets you absolutely nowhere. The hell and brimstone messages that used to save hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people even maybe at these, tent revivals and stuff. The only reason they were effective is because they instilled fear. People were motivated to get saved through fear. That's not at all what Jesus would want us to have. He'd want us to have a relationship with him because we want one, not because we feel like we have to, or we're going to get judged or shamed if we do not.
Plus, I just feel like so much more free just knowing that I don't have to worry about what other people are doing. Like, I can love them and I can be by their side no matter what kind of walk of life they've had. Like, it's so much more freeing than having to worry about, like, what are they doing? Oh my goodness, how can I help them? How dare they? Like, that I've been there, and that's exhausting.
It's so tiring.
Yeah. It's not fun. And I've never made a comment to someone's face about it, but, like, it's that instant judgment of like, I don't understand them. How dare they? Like,
yeah,
they're breaking Jesus's heart. Like, just, it's mentally draining. 10 out of 10 does not recommend.
I would never recommend that lifestyle again. And I think that's one of the reasons why I do feel so free now. Cause it's just like, I can meet anybody, talk to anybody, and just be like, and not have that feeling in the back of me where it's like, you gotta lead them to Christ.
Yeah. Plus, people are more willing to be open to someone who they feel is not going to judge them. Right. You know, like, exactly. It seems a lot easier to have conversations now.
Yeah.
So
I really hope that there are some pastors watching this video. Maybe you're doing some research on your sermon or something. You're like trying to get perspectives. Please talk about this in your church. And please don't demonize those of us that are deconstructing. Ask questions. Reach out to leaders who in the deconstruction space. Like, actually hold interviews maybe. Like, maybe create a conversation where we're able to talk together just like we're doing here and like hear each other's points of view. It's just sad to me. Because I always heard that, the church is supposed to be like a hospital for the sinners and the broken or something. Mm-hmm. And I resonated with that. I liked that. Maybe not the sinner word, but like it should be a hospital for people who are like broken 100%.
Yeah.
And the people that are broken are the people that you have pushed away in your churches or that you have made feel less than. So how are you going to repair that? Are you planning on repairing it? Or do you not really have an interest to? The next question is, where did I find support? So, well, when I made that Facebook post that I did, I got support from that. And that's actually how I became really close to one of my best friends now. We had known each other all those years through like New Life and School of Worship and stuff. But we never really had like a close connection. And then when I was so vulnerable and so open, which I always encourage, because sometimes we feel like people don't care. We feel like people don't care what we have to say or how we feel. And so we like bottle everything up inside. But sometimes when you like share your story, it invites authentic, real community back to you. So that's what happened with that post. Wasn't expecting it to, but ended up reconnecting with her. And then we became like super close. And now she's one of my best friends. So I feel like it was a lot of people who have been in ministry. In my case, it's people who have been in ministry that had left the ministry or had like processed their own hurt and church pain. And another person was like a woman who's a little bit older than I am. Well, I mean, she's like old enough to be my mom, but she was like a mentor to me. She was actually, so the church that we got fired at, she and her husband at the time, they've since divorced as well, but they were the pastors of the church while we were the worship pastors. So they got fired and left the church. This was like a reoccurring thing for this church.
Wow.
They got fired and left the church. And then we got fired and left the church. And when we got fired, she reached out to me and was like, let's get coffee. And having a woman that's been in my place, relating to me, listening to me, allowing me to feel the hurt and validating that. Oh my gosh, that was like so good for me. That was so freeing, so healing. That's why I want to be that woman for other people. So please don't ever hesitate to like DM me or reach out to me if you're going through something similar, because I will meet you there. No problem. What about you? What support did you find?
I haven't had any friends who've gone through it, so you're like the best one I've had.
Hey.
And like I said, I didn't know there was like a title for it, so it just kind of was happening. But mostly Instagram accounts, probably and seeing those posts. Like Naked Pastor was the first one I followed, but
me too.
I just love how he just like brings up these big ideas of Christianity and then like has drawings and different things to show another side. So
he's an artist and he makes these like cartoons to depict who Jesus really is, not the Jesus that we've always known him to be. And it really makes you think. So
yeah,
his account's called Naked Pastor. There's so many accounts that I follow on Instagram now. I would say my whole feed is either like body positive accounts or deconstruction accounts. Like that's all the people I follow basically. But just like I recommend, if you're trying to love yourself and love your body, I recommend filtering out your feed and bringing on voices that are going to support you in that. It's the same thing with this. Follow those accounts. I will make a list for you in the description box or on the show notes, so you can go and follow some of my favorite accounts that have truly helped me. Read some books. I'll also include some books in the show notes for you guys that have helped me. And just surround yourself with resources and you'll find the support that you need. I'm also in a Facebook group, which I guess I'll include that as well. So you guys have tons of resources right there at your fingertips. When you surround yourself with those things, it'll truly help you, especially if you don't have the support that you need in your personal life.
I like to figure things out on my own. So I'm like, I follow that one Instagram account and I've just been kind of figuring it all out by myself. But yeah, just whatever works best for you.
Mm-hmm. The next question was, what is the moment that you realized your faith and beliefs didn't match with the church? And I feel like we touched on that in the last episode. For you, it was like during COVID and the pandemic and
BLM,
and seeing how people were reacting to it. And I would say that probably just solidified it for me. I think here's the hard thing about being in ministry. Obviously, it's just like full of people who have flaws, right? But instead of like being real about those things amongst each other, there's more of this atmosphere of like, we have to have everything figured out and we're held to a higher standard. And I think that's where it gets tricky because we don't see each other as people. And then when things happen, because things will always happen, because like I said, we're imperfect, the hurt is so much more than it would have been if we would just been real with each other. And so like there was just a lot of really poor behaviors that I saw modeled to me and near me. And so many little things. Like I could seriously sit here all day with all of the church hurts that I've had. I'm not going to do that, but there's just certain things that have like stuck with me through the years. Let me talk about one, shall we? It was a cold day. We were living in the mountains and my kids were young, like 6 months old and 4. And Jude was 6 months old. He was sleeping in his car seat. So I had to carry Eden inside through snow and ice to bring her inside the church and to get her into the nursery so I could go back to the car to get Jude. My husband at the time was like already leading and getting the band prepared and getting the band ready and stuff like that. So I was used to doing all the parenting stuff on my own, especially on Sunday mornings, right? So that wasn't like a big deal. And I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. But I set Eden down. I went back out to the car and I got Jude and came back inside and all was well. Well, about a month and a half later, we were called into a meeting by the children's pastor. And she informed us that if we were to leave our kids in the car again, that they would have to call CPS on us. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, we got some complaints from some of the church members that you had walked in with Eden and left Jude in the running car in front of the church. And I'm like, yeah, it was winter. Mm-hmm. The doors were right by, my car was right by the front door of the church. I just had to run in really quick, set Eden down and get Jude after that. And she was like, yeah, we understand that, but you did leave him in the car and that leaves us liable as a church. And we are going to have to call CPS on you if you do that again. I just wanted you to be aware. Oh, and I was like, who are these people that are complaining? Because instead of complaining, they could have walked out and been like, hey, can I help you?
Right. They probably saw how flustered you were trying to figure things out, trying to do it on your own.
Yeah. I'm like a mom just trying to figure this out, like already feeling tired and stressed and overwhelmed and all the things. And instead of like actually trying to help me in that moment, you're just throwing me under the bus.
Yeah.
So little things like that, they add up over time, you know, these little like microaggressions. To this day, I still don't know who did that. And I think that's a hard part too, is because there's always somebody in the church that has a problem with you at all times. And for some reason, people really love to have a problem with the way I led worship. They would say things like, she thinks she's on American Idol. I'm like, how do you want me to lead worship? You want me to just stand there like, then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee.
I feel like every worship leader is like, they're on American Idol. Like,
yeah.
How are you any different?
Well, I think a lot of the churches that we had been on staff at, they weren't used
more
to
traditional.
Like, yeah, they were more traditional. And they weren't really used to like the more like modern style of worship.
Yeah.
And so they were like, whoa, who's this couple coming in? And this girl, what the heck? Why is she singing like that? But it made me so insecure about my voice. And it really felt like somebody had their arms around my neck and they were like strangling me for like the whole time I was in ministry. That's what it felt like, because everyone always there was always somebody who had an issue with something that I did related to singing. And they would like gossip about me. I would find out who it is. And then I would see them out there while I'm worshiping and they'd be like lifting their hands up and like praising God. Meanwhile, they're the ones that have like been talking crap about me for months.
Wow.
So much drama.
It's not toxic at all.
Not at all. I know this stuff happens everywhere, but that's what I'm saying. It feels a lot. I feel like it's a lot more hurtful when it happens within the church walls, because it's like this expectation that we're all supposed to, I don't know, love each other.
It's supposed to be a safe place.
Yeah. And it's not at all. But let me tell you, the first time that I walked into a gay bar, which I think you were with me when we went together for the first time, that felt like church to me.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was the first time in my life that I had felt that level of just like love, acceptance, and peace. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
This feels like church more than church has ever felt like church. Nobody, to this day, nobody has ever judged me there. I've always been safe to be myself.
And you always walk away feeling better than when you came in.
You feel
it's crazy.
so refreshed and whole and like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just so many happy vibes, and it inspires you to like love people better and be a better person. And it's just sad that like all my life, I thought that those kinds of places would be like, you hang out at those kinds of places and you walk home and you're like, you got the demons attached to you and you your life is going down a downward spiral, and it's like, couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
I feel like I'm going off topic a lot, but
there's a lot on this topic. This could be like a 5-parter.
Somebody asked, what are your thoughts on 1 Timothy 2:12 through 14, which is excluding females from teaching?
So 1 Timothy 2:12 to 14, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner.
Burn it.
Yeah. Burn it. What? You heard me. Burn it.
I said burn it. I should do that as a reel.
Oh, jeez. That.
Do you remember what I said in the last episode where I said the Bible's been translated by white men? Perfect example right there.
Adam was not the one deceived. It was totally Eve.
It was 100% Eve. And so therefore, every woman should be quiet for the rest of her life because she adds zero value to
I still
a
don't
man's
believe
life.
that. I believe that it was Adam's fault. Eve was blamed for it. Just saying. But anyway, that doesn't matter. The fact of the issue is, what? How do you believe this?
And how do we believe that God would say something like that?
Right. Like,
I don't get it. I mean, he put women in positions of authority all the time.
Yeah, we give birth to children.
A woman gave birth to Jesus, guys. Her name was Mary.
Yeah.
She came in on a donkey. Gave birth in a stable. in Bethlehem.
Can you ride a donkey when you're pregnant?
Apparently. Back then you had to. They didn't have cars.
She was also virgin, so
yeah.
But oh man,
I don't know what to say to that other than like, let's not believe everything that is written.
Yeah, that's a good example of like,
yeah,
you can't.
You just cannot. Things have been translated and passed down in different ways for generations, and telling women in your church that they can't lead on a Sunday morning is so dehumanizing, because those women are the volunteers typically that are running your church. You have no problem putting them in the nursery or working with the kids. Kylie just smacked her head with a microphone. You good?
Yeah. I just read the rest of the passage.
You have no problem putting women in positions of nurturing and caring for other people, but you don't want them to nurture and care for your flock of congregation on a Sunday morning? Dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb.
The next verse says they can be saved through childbearing, though. What? So if you can't have children?
So I can lead and you can't, sorry.
Yeah, apparently. But what about the woman who can't physically have children?
She's not a leader.
She's not a woman. She's not
a real
trash.
leader.
Like, what? How can you believe these things about women? And poor women back then, you know? Like, oh.
I mean, they didn't know any different.
I know, but like.
But, yeah. Well, even women in different countries still, like, don't have the voice that we have worked so hard to get here. Mm-hmm. Even though our rights are getting set back. But, you know.
Yeah.
Who run the world?
Girls. Yep. Women. They're the reason why this world still exists.
They're the reason why men even exist to write these crappy Bible verses. So never got it. Never understood. But there were so many churches that we were on staff at that would say things like that. Like, we can't have so-and-so speaking at this event because she XYZ. One time we led worship and it was like for Christmas, and we sang an Amy Grant song, and the keyboard player came up to us during rehearsal and was like, I am quite surprised that we are singing an Amy Grant song right now, considering she's divorced. I don't see how that is actually a reasonable decision. We shouldn't be promoting her music at this church because of her sin. That I don't agree with this decision. And it was like, I just remember looking at her and my jaw was dropped and I was like, what? What am I doing? See, it's little things like that where you're just like, I don't believe that. I
probably would have just laughed.
I was pretty upset about it. I remember telling my ex, like, half of this church is divorced. And she just, like, if she would have said that out loud, that would have alienated half the people there.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's still people with those kinds of mindsets. Honestly, it's like appalling to me. I can't even like wrap my head around it.
This isn't 1692. Like, we've moved on as a
divorced
society.
women don't get stoned to death.
Yeah. Jeez. Somebody
Somebody asked like how you don't remain bitter with Christians after deconstructing. It's a good question. I would say for the most part, I'm not going to be bitter unless they give me a reason to be.
Yeah.
But I've had to unfollow like every pastor that I followed. I've had to, if I'm on Facebook or something and somebody from like my past who I know from church or something writes this really long post and it's very Christianese, which is like our way of saying that they use a lot of like Christian embellishment words. Like, if you grew up in the church, you know what I'm talking about. But like, this season of my life, saved, just different like key words that are very Christianese, like brothers and sisters of Christ, have a blessed day. I don't know. Just there's certain things that are very triggering to me. Yes, I'm a special snowflake. Thank you for those of you who are going to say that. I'm still triggered by things all the time, whether it be a post or like a song. Oh my gosh, worship songs. So triggering. Okay. I didn't think I even told you this story. Did I tell you about how I went on a date at the hospital? Okay.
What? What do you mean?
So this guy lives like an hour and a half away, and he wanted to go on a date, and I was like, I'm not driving all the way there, but I'm willing to meet you halfway. Do you want to meet in Castle Rock, which was halfway for us? And he's like, sure. Where do you want to eat? And I was like, okay, this is going to sound really weird, but will you meet me at the Castle Rock Hospital? Because there's a really good restaurant there that I used to eat at all the time when I lived in Castle Rock. And he was like, okay, I'm down. He was like all for it, which I was surprised about.
That's amazing.
Totally forgetting that this restaurant is a Christian restaurant that plays worship music. And he's an atheist. I'm figuring out what I believe. That's another question that's coming up. So we'll get on that in a minute. But like, we're sitting down. He's like talking to me about his life. We're eating, and like the food is delicious. It's amazing. I really love that restaurant. But like the whole time these worship songs are playing, and I'm just like literally being triggered every time a song comes on. It reminds me of some painful memory or just like something I would rather forget. And I'm just like, you know what? Would you rather go walk outside? I screwed myself over on that one. But it's things like that are just like super triggering to me. Like worship music is still triggering. I wish sometimes that I could walk inside of a church and just like worship God in my own way because I want to through music, because I love music. But like 3/4 of worship songs remind me of something, and they connect me to something that's very painful to me. And so to be honest, like I just kind of not surrounded myself with a lot of things that remind me of my Christian past, if that makes sense. And as far as being bitter, I mean, I'm still working on it for sure. I don't ever want to like label a group of people as one thing. Just as I don't like to be labeled as something myself. So, you have anything to add, Kylie?
I mean, no. That's more of a question for you because you were hurt by a church, and multiple churches for 10 years. So
the big question we've all been waiting for. What are our current beliefs? Do we still believe in God? What's our relationship like with him? Or have we gone off the deep end completely and we no longer believe in anything at all? Gonna start?
Yeah, mine's pretty simple right now. Like, obviously it's, I'm sure it will change. I still love Jesus and I still believe in God. I think it's just like trying to find ways around some of the things in the Bible, but I know that like it's not like he wrote it all. And so I think a lot of maybe what he said has been kind of misinterpreted. So my big belief is that Jesus loves everyone, and that's what I'm going to do too. And that's kind of where I'm leaving it. I'm not like, okay, but God, like Jesus doesn't actually like that. Like, no, because I don't believe any of that is true. I believe that he was the most loving person that's ever existed. And that's kind of what I base that off of. And so I actually have a more healthy relationship with God now than I ever have. Because now it's not like, oh, he's not going to accept me for who I am. Like now I feel like I can actually like connect. And that's because I don't have anyone else involved in it. It's just me and him. I don't go to church. And maybe one day I'll find a church that I love. But right now it's just kind of small interactions with him and just like knowing that he's there. And that's all I need and want right now. So pretty simple.
Ooh, good answer. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I want to echo your sentiments. I definitely still feel a pull to Jesus. And I feel like I have a connection to him that I can't fully explain. It's different than it was before, but I feel like it's a lot healthier. And I feel like it's a lot more spiritually connected. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I'm like, because I try to meditate every day, it's just really important for me to like focus and center myself in that way. And I feel like I meet him in places like meditation. As opposed to like, I used to think that I would just have to pray.
Yeah.
And the more fervently I prayed, the more he would show up. But I don't believe that it's anything that I have to do to earn love and time with him.
Well, that's what we were taught too, So we're just going off of that. And it is, it's something that has stuck around. Like we don't have to perform for him.
Mm-hmm. I wrote this song when I was 18 with my friend Erin. And it was like, nothing can separate us from your love, oh God.
I used to have that on my iPod. My
You
iPod
did?
Nano. Yeah.
I would like to hear that song again.
Well, I don't have that
Though the
anymore.
world will try and overtake us, nothing,
oh
oh God, will separate us.
That was a bop.
Nothing can separate us from your love. Okay. Anyways,
going
you get
with
the point. I feel like nothing can separate us from his love. I felt like that from like the time I was a child to now. And I feel like no matter what you've done, no matter what you're going to do, he's going to love you the same. And to be honest, I guess I kind of lean toward more of a universalist in the sense I don't really... I have a hard time grasping the idea of hell.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
damn. Yeah. Like, excuse me?
Right.
And I don't know about you, but any talk about like Satan, the devil, hell was traumatizing to me as a kid. I'm a very sensitive person and I always have been. And I remember like not being able to sleep at night at my kids' ages because I was so worried about Satan coming and like stealing my soul and taking me to hell. Or it was like a legit fear. And I think that carried over in my adult life so much. And now being like, how do I feel about hell? Is this real? Like, how can a God who loves us so much be willing to have us burn in a place for eternity? I can't wrap my mind around that because I have 2 children. I can't even imagine like telling them, nope, you're going down there to the pits of the burning flames because you made some mistakes on earth. I can't fathom that. So I agree. That's one of my biggest struggles, I would say, and what I'm working on within myself. But
and like it's said in the Bible, despite what someone's done, like Jesus forgives them and loves them. And of course they say like, but they have to repent and accept the Lord as their savior. But like, do they? Like, I've always felt like Jesus is just like, I understand what you were thinking in that moment. I forgive you. Like, I also am like, there's no way that there's hell.
Yeah.
There's no way because we all start off as the same. So why would we not end the same? If it doesn't matter, like, not that it doesn't matter what we do in this life, but like all sins equal. Mm-hmm. So I feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because there have been accounts of people like going to heaven, like dying and going to heaven and coming back on earth to like tell the story. But have you heard of anybody going to hell and coming back? Maybe there are stories out there. I could be wrong.
And most of those stories are people who weren't even like devout Christians. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
it leads you to wonder where, and like I said, this is like a theological discussion we could get into, which I'm not really interested in, but it's like, it leads you to wonder like where people like Hitler are right now. Because I think that's why people hold on to hell so much. They have this like, I think it's this, it's comforting to know that like the bad people on earth are going somewhere to burn alive because they never got the justice that they needed to have when they were alive on earth.
Yeah. And it gives people motivation to be good and to be a good person. Yeah. But then there's people like Ted Bundy who, you know, murdered a bunch of people, but then accepted Jesus right before he died. Mm-hmm. And so it's like,
didn't James Dobson do that?
A lot of serial killers have done it right before they've been killed, executed. But like, it's just, I don't know. To me,
Christians are like, praise God, a soul is saved. But it's like, okay, but
how do you paint that line? Like, what is the line? There's no way that Jesus is just like, let's see, hell. Like, I that just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and people say like, as long as you repent, you're gonna go to heaven. As long as you like are, you know, you actually give it to God and say like, I'm sorry. But what about the people who die before they can repent? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Are they given an opportunity to repent in midlife or something? I mean, I don't know. There's so many questions. And I think it's okay to say we don't have the answers. Mm-hmm. I think instead of like pretending like we know all the answers and pretending like we have all the answers and pretending that that book has every answer we'll ever need in life, I think it's actually healthy to say there's not answers to things. There's not answers to questions like, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? There's not answers to every single thing. And that's okay because we're not meant to know all the answers.
Yeah.
We're not him. He's not us. So I feel like that maybe answers it. And then, of course, I don't go to church anymore. Not that I'm opposed to it necessarily if I found one that was very inclusive. If I go back to church, it's got to be like inclusive of all people, accepting of all.
Absolutely.
But on top of that, it's like when I hear the worship music, am I going to be like, I don't know. I'm kind of nervous. So
you can feel instant judgment at a lot of churches, like walking in. So it'd be nice to find one that's like more of a safe place, but I don't know.
Definitely.
The last one I enjoyed was in my college town, and I can't go to that anymore. So I'm like,
yeah.
we'll see. Maybe one day we'll try out a church, but
we live in Christian City, USA.
Yeah, there's a ton of churches here.
Colorado Springs is like the evangelical capital. We have Focus on the Family. We have Compassion International. Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the people that we grew up around and stuff were all Christians. Like this is like a very predominantly Christian town. I feel like it's finally starting to branch out.
Well, now we got all the hipsters.
Yeah.
So they're like, and the hippies, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, we get a wide range of beliefs.
If I could be anything, it'd be a hippie.
Absolutely. I respect them.
I want to be a hippie so much.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a fun life.
Hey, I'm wearing tie-dye.
Oh, you're already halfway there. Your hair kind of looks hippie-ish too.
Yeah. I definitely feel the same way as them. Like, just live life,
Free.
love each other, peace.
Yeah. Peace and
That's
harmony.
my religion right now. My stance on religion. Anyway.
Yep. I hope that answered.
That was a good ending. That was solid. That was solid. We did good. Doesn't it smell good in here?
Yeah, sorry. She's because you have a pumpkin spice latte candle.
It's fall.
Oh my gosh, the weather is
it's
so
fall,
nice.
y'all.
It's definitely turning. I can't say y'all. It's one of those words that like bothers me so much that I'm so stubborn I'll never say it.
Y'all?
Y'all. I hate it. I mean, I just said it, but I would never say it's fall, y'all. That's so like
I say y'all and I'm not even like from the South.
That's what's weird about it. I feel like if I say y'all, I'm supposed to be from the South, and I'm not from the South, so I'm not gonna say y'all. But so many people that live here are like y'all. I'm like, you're from Colorado.
Colorado, the accent of Colorado is just like not pronouncing things right. Like, did you hear how I said Colorado? Like, we don't say Colorado, mountain. Like, we just say things very quickly.
Mountain.
Yeah, people that come here are like, what?
People ask me what kind of accent I have.
Yeah,
I'm like.
I feel like we mumble.
I have one.
We mumble. We don't really enunciate. We just kind of say things.
We mumble. Maybe that's true.
I think that's true.
Do you guys think we mumble?
Yeah, let us know.
I say words really weird on the podcast sometimes because I'll be thinking of one word and I'll say another and then it doesn't come out right. So maybe I do mumble. I don't know. Anyways, it was lovely having this discussion with you, Kylie.
Yeah.
Thanks for having it with me.
I'm glad we're in this together.
What is this?
We're holding hands.
Okay. I wasn't sure if this is a handshake or a high five.
We're just holding hands.
Okay. We're in this together. And you're in this with us. Stop. Don't let go.
I'll never let go, Jack.
You're in this with us. This is getting so cheesy.
All right. Well,
you're in this with us. Thanks for being here, you guys. Like I said before, please share your stories. Please share your thoughts. Let's be kind to each other, please. And thank you. And if there's anything else that you would like us to talk about or touch on or any topics at all for this podcast, because we're completely open.
Yeah.
Leave them down below.
They're not always this intense. We drink sometimes.
Yes. In 2 weeks, we'll be having another drinking game where we judge dating profiles, and we might be doing something else in it. Also, I've been having some subscribers send me their dating profiles that they're getting. And I thought it would be kind of fun if we did an episode where we like talked about the cute dating profiles, like the ones that are actually positive.
Absolutely.
For the guys out there watching, there might be a few of you out there who are like, well, I need examples of good ones. Well, I got your back. I'll find profiles of like guys that have actually gone on dates with that they've, I've been attracted to.
That's a good idea.
Enough where I'm like, let's do it.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Because I know it's hard out there in that dating world. And so we don't want to ruin every man's life.
We know some of you were actually trying to be decent, and we want to applaud you in that.
Yeah.
So, yes. All right, guys. We will see you next Friday.
Woo!
Bye.
Bye.